harass you, ask them, are you challenging me to a fight? So psychologically, the bully has a choice to make. Either yes, in which case you use what you know, or if he says, most of the time he'll say no, it's de-escalated. But you can only ask that question if you know the answer is yes, then you can handle it. Women can't handle it if they're in an inner city and a man is on PCP. Sports are sort of allegorical, analogous for war, right? In a lot of ways. It's a way of sort of competing without killing each other. So take wrestling, where we know it's not even remotely competitive. Now apply killing. We need the most effective fighting force possible. Just like I wouldn't send out a woman, for example, to wrestle Cael Sanderson. I wouldn't send a woman who can't do a pull-up, and that's the majority of female recruits in the military. I would not send her out to war. She doesn't lose a match. She loses her life, and so does the guy next to her relying on her. I think it's important, more important than diversity.
Again, I'm going to bring it back to the standard point. I think that's an issue with the standards we have in the military, in the police force. I think the standards aren't high enough. Again, I
agree.
We can argue like that there is a biological difference, but again, you're also talking about people have guns, they have a lot of technological advancements. Today's military, technologically, is off the charts. Like, it is crazy how much money we put into the military every single day, technologically advancing ourselves.
Sure.
So,
I actually agree with the statement you just made. I think it's very important. Where you said, for example, guns, advancement, let's just say in firearms. That does equalize the playing field, right, in a lot of ways. Okay, so it's a perfect example. For the same reason I support women being able to carry firearms, and I actually support them carrying firearms because it's the only way to be stronger than a man. It's a mechanical advantage, right? Yes, we have advances in firearms. It's still the only way that a woman can overpower a strong man. Flip side of that coin, the police force, a woman will have to use a firearm. She'll have to use a weapon because she can't physically subdue a man. And that, I don't believe, is something where you talk about de-escalation. If you have to go to your tool belt because you cannot physically restrain a 250-pound man on PCP,
but do you
that's not a good
always
thing.
have to? Because I'm saying between men and women, I'm saying in the police force in general, like, I don't remember the exact number, so I can't really quote on this, but I know for a fact that there is not enough training on de-escalation. Like, they barely do any training on it at all. I agree with the statement that
I agree with you, they should train that robustly.
Okay, I agree that you're saying like men and women, like women are physically smaller, we are biologically different. But I'm saying in general, you can't put the whole argument on just women rather than putting it on a structural problem.
Right, and I believe the structural problem is because of the matriarchy and the problem with feminism trying to lower standards to accommodate women.
But can't you say...
But even if we did put all the focus on the structural problem, that would not omit the liability that women provide in these positions. It still wouldn't. You can train officers to the high extent in de-escalation. The variable in that is the differences biologically between men and women. Men are able to de-escalate, more proficiently than women because they will not be overpowered as much. You know what I'm saying? A woman can try to fucking de-escalate with a man 100 pounds heavier than her with her training, but you can train a woman as much as you can in that. It's not gonna fucking matter if this man gonna put hands on her. It don't matter if she bring the baton out, she try to use her defensive tactics, whatever the fuck. If the man is bigger and stronger than her, she gonna have to pull out and pop that thing, and that wouldn't tend to happen with the majority of other officers within the police force or military because, most of them are men, right? It doesn't, so the underlying issue is the differences biologically between men and women. Women are much more of a liability in these circumstances, bro. Military too, like, you increase the training for military and make it an equal playing field. So women are required to do the same amount of pull-ups as a man, are required to run as fast as a man, required to do as many push-ups as a man. You go to war, bro, when the other side sees these fucking women, who are they gonna try to victimize first? Prisoners of war, things of that nature. You walking on the battlefield, as soon as you get there, you're a liability just solely due to the fact that you're a woman. They're gonna gravitate towards you first, no matter how much fucking training you got, right? And regardless of how many pull-ups and how many push-ups and how fast you can fucking run, these men are going to be more likely to overpower you. And don't get taken as a woman as a prisoner of war. I know that's an extreme, but that's you're volunteering to be a liability at that point. So I guess it's on the women, but that's why it's scary. Goddamn, thinking about signing up for the military with the testing standards that they have. If a woman can't even do one pull-up, bro, and she's supposed to be protecting your left and right, come on, man. And then the police thing he said too, where women are more likely to pull out the gun and kill somebody. And we're doing this why? To make women feel better, when the liability and chances of that happening is through the fucking roof.
Say it's also sexism because it's the idea that, like I was saying before, like you were talking about in the military how a lot of it is there's a lot of things given to women, and it's like the men should be we're talking about, like, for example, mental health, for example, and we were saying that, like
women are more likely to PTSD, be discharged.
but it's also because men aren't treated as seriously for it, because it's like
that could be true. It's an
toxic.
inference, but I think your inference might be correct.
yes, that could also be, instead of saying because of feminists, it could also be because of sexism.
Towards men? Mm-hmm. You may be correct on that. I think it's probably a little column A, a little column B. I think we have quite a lot of data that shows that men tend to perform better under high compression stress scenarios than women in general. There are always exceptions to the rule. And it tends to be more traumatic for women. And then especially when you combine, right, being on the receiving end of a traumatic injury in the military. Same thing in the police force. But you mentioned de-escalation. Now you wrestle. So you have some understanding of, I would say, controlling or subduing the human body, right? That's what all grappling arts are, whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, judo. I do believe that should be trained in the police force so that you don't have to use a weapon. I think that we need higher standards, as a matter of fact. I think every member of the police should have basic grappling capabilities so that they don't have to, for example, grab their gun or grab their taser. Now, de-escalation. I agree with you, that's very important. Here's what I would argue is the reality of de-escalation. You can only de-escalate if you have the nuclear option. What do I mean? You can't de-escalate with a large, strong, likely inebriated man who doesn't want to go back to prison if he sees a small, weak woman trying to de-escalate. He knows that he has a trump card and he can attack you. Statistically, it happens a lot. De-escalation can only take place with formidable capability. And women don't have that physically, as a general rule. Not all women, and certainly most of the women in our police force today.
For me, okay, I'm not disagreeing with your statement. I actually kind of agree with your statement. My only thing is, again, like I said, for de-escalation, when I think of de-escalation, I think of more like, you know, like physical therapy. You know how we learn about the cognitive whatever. Like you've ever heard about, like, you've ever taken a psychology class?
Sure.
Okay. And they teach us about, like, different things about the human, like, behavior and things like that. I feel like, the way I think about it is, I feel like cops should be taught that, because they should be taught how to behave and be not behave, but you know how to, like.
No, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, but
I think it's a very important component of the job, right? I think it's a very important component to be able to de-escalate. And to be fair,
you're not gonna be able to fucking talk some dude down if he try to go to prison. Like, that's just, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Her definition of de-escalation within Crowder's talking about, her definition of it is entirely incorrect. You know what I mean? What she's talking about is irrelevant. That shit don't fucking matter. De-escalation is a motherfucker getting after you. You trying to figure out how to way to de-escalate this shit where you don't have to use deadly force. That's point blank period. You're not trying to kill this man or kill whomever, and you're using other tools and defensive tactics and things of that nature to de-escalate this shit. Words mean nothing. Verbal judo means nothing.
Fair. Most police civilian interactions, most of them are not violent.
Yeah.
But every single police officer, male or female, will have many violent interactions throughout their career. And it only takes one. And if you're not physically up to the task, and the women in our police force, the vast majority are not all of them, but the vast majority are not, that's a problem. If I can, let me give you, we've talked about the empirical and anecdotal story.
Okay.
And I come from a background, I've done judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We don't really have wrestling in Canada, I think it says.
Canadian wrestling, sorry.
I know, it's not very good, yeah. There's the Olympic team, and like George St. and then everyone else. It doesn't happen in high school. But now I'm a new father, and I've also coached kids in Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure.
And here's a problem too. You have a lot of moms, for example, who when they have sons, they will tell them if they're dealing with a bully, and I had this, they say, you walk up to him and you tell him that he better stop. You know, he needs to stop or else. Or you tell him that he needs to stop, that this is, he's just doing it because he feels bad about himself. In other words, whatever techniques that are often told to young boys. It doesn't work if the bully knows he can kick your ass. It happened to me when I was young. I said, well, stop, this is wrong, you need to stop doing this. The bully said, what? And kicked my ass. Only once I was able to physically defend myself could I de-escalate the situation. And then at that point I could say, look, do you really want to go this route? And that's what we actually teach children. We teach children, we teach them jiu-jitsu. The Gracies actually do this. And it's important we teach the psychology. We say, avoid it. And then if they continue to harass you, ask them, are you challenging me to a fight? So psychologically, the bully has a choice to make. Either yes, in which case you use what you know. Or if he says, most of the time he'll say no, it's de-escalated. But you can only ask that question if you know the answer is yes, then you can handle it. Women can't handle it if they're in an inner city and a man is on PCP. You can't de-escalate from a position of weakness. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
If we didn't have nukes and we told Russia to stop it, think they'd care?
No.
No, exactly. So it does matter. You can only have peace through strength, de-escalation, if they know that when push comes to shove, there are consequences. And the statistics are really scary. Women as far as being on the receiving end of violent attacks when they're police officers. It's not good. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see women getting hurt because of some diversity quota. I don't think that's a good thing for women, and I don't think it's a good thing for the guy next to her.
My thing is, I was talking to, I don't know where that guy went, but I was talking to him about something, and we were talking about how police need to be retrained. They get trained once, and then they go for the job. Men too, I feel like.
That's not true. That's not true. They get trained once and they don't get trained no more. Come on, man. She don't know what she's talking about. She don't know what she's talking about. She's too emotionally attached to her stance on anything to allow these facts that he's saying to sink in, man. Because what he's saying is true as hell, and a woman should be able to understand the risk involved when you take these career choices, man. And in the perfect world right now, all the standards will be the same for men and women. And if you're a woman volunteering for these dangerous positions, you're gonna have to deal with what comes with it, man. But when we're changing testing requirements and standards to accommodate women to be in these positions, bro, that is a fucking liability for everyone. Everyone's life is in danger at that point. Everyone. But the testing requirements and standards, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. If a motherfucker don't want to go to jail and a woman is the first one to respond to the scene, they salivating for that shit. First officer on scene to whatever the fuck is going on is a woman, domestic violence, robbery, whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? He should ask her herself, like, if your man is beating you down, you call the police, who would you prefer pull up to the scene first, a woman or a man? She's just talking from here, not from here. And her talking from here is gonna fuck women up.
Over time, he was giving the example, it wasn't me. He was saying, like, police officer gets trained out of the job, freshly trained, whatever, physically built, whatever. Years go by, he gets fat, he gets slow, he doesn't get retrained. The training basically just leaves his head. I feel like if you're talking about like that, it's honestly the same. It's like, I don't feel like...
No, I agree. I think that's terrible. I just don't think that the solution...
Women are not as trained either, so like that argument is null and void. The men officers aren't getting trained, the women officers aren't getting trained either with her stance on it. But if the women are already at a disadvantage already because the standards are not as high for them, and then they're lacking the consistent training that she thinks everyone needs, then we're at a stalemate now. Like, your position is irrelevant to the goal.
Is a reverse nirvana fallacy. Well, then let's just lower the standards for everyone. I think we need to raise it. I think we're both agreeing we need to raise the standards.
But simply raising the standards is not going to fix anything, or simply raising the standards is not going to fix enough for this not to be an issue anymore.